I clicked on a funny meme from a friend, but lost everything: money, work, reputation. Someone from my past started the game, and I had to find it before it was too late. I was sitting in my apartment in Tempe, Phoenix, Arizona, when my life came apart at the seams. I'm 27, a graphic designer at a startup that builds phone apps. My Instagram is full of pictures of hiking the Grand Canyon, partying in Scottsdale, and my cat Maverick. I was making plans, a career, money for my studio, maybe even a house overlooking the desert. But one hot day, when the sun was so hot that the asphalt was melting, my phone beeped and everything fell apart. Emily, my friend, sent me a meme with a cat dancing in a sombrero and a link to it. "Brendan, check it out. It's hilarious," she wrote. I clicked on it, laughing. What could it be? Suddenly, the screen blinked as if it had broken, and my accounts began to disappear one by one. Mail, Instagram, Twitter, even the banking app. Everything was blocked. I tried to log in, but the passwords didn't work. And then I received a message from an unknown number. "You've lost everything, Brendan. The game has started." Panic hit me like a fist in the chest. My savings, reputation, clients, everything hung in the balance. I frantically changed passwords, but the hacker was faster, as if he knew my every move. I scrolled through every post, every comment, looking for any clue. Who the hell is this? Why me? My thoughts were buzzing like a swarm of bees, and my hands were trembling as I typed. I didn't sleep a minute that night. I installed antivirus, changed the Wi-Fi, locked the door as if it could stop whoever was sitting on the other side of the screen. I sat on the couch with Maverick, stroking him, but there was no peace. I started digging through the mail, hoping to find something. And I came across an old email sent a year ago from someone called Shadow Phoenix. The subject line was simply, "Hi, Brendan." The text was empty, but the name stuck in my head. It pulled me back to the past, to memories that I had long ago shoved into a distant drawer. I grew up in Mesa, a suburb of Phoenix, in an ordinary family. My dad, Tom, worked in a car repair shop, and my mom, Linda, taught kids to read and write in elementary school. I was a quiet kid, drawing comics and dreaming of becoming a designer. I kept to myself at school, but when I was 16, Caitlin Wilson, the school queen, who played with people like dolls, ruined everything. She was the kind of person who always had the perfect hairstyle, the perfect smile, and the perfect plan to make your life hell. Caitlin framed me for stealing school equipment, an old projector and several cameras from the computer lab. I didn't steal it, but she convinced everyone that I did, and I had to explain myself to the principal. I almost got kicked out, and she stood by and smiled like it was just a game. We parted ways, but I haven't forgotten her look, cold as a winter wind in the desert. It was Shadow Phoenix that reminded me of her. Caitlin used to brag about this nickname in chat rooms where we would run around online, playing stupid games or trolling each other. I thought it was just her showing off, but now it looked different. Was she back? I opened my laptop and started looking for her on social media. I found her, Caitlin Wilson, living in Tucson, working as a marketing specialist, posting pictures of trendy cafes and perfect sunsets. But her life seemed too polished, like a mask. Each post was like a scene from a movie in which she played the lead. Something was wrong with it. The hacker didn't slow down. The next day, I received a message from a colleague, Jenna. "Brendan, what the hell? You've sent emails to clients saying they're scammers." I rushed to check it out. Someone from my work account had sent offensive messages to my clients. 2 of them had already canceled their projects. My boss might call me into the office in downtown Phoenix. "Brendan, what's going on? We're losing deals." His voice was shaking with anger. I tried to explain that it was a hacker, but I sounded crazy. Who would believe in a secret enemy from the past? Mike just shook his head. "Fix it, or we're going to have a problem." I left the office, and the heat of Phoenix hit me like a slap in the face. I went to the downtown cafe where I always got a latte. I sat down at a table, but I didn't drink the coffee. I just held the glass as if it could give me answers. Emily, the barista and my friend from high school, noticed my appearance. "Brendan, you look like you've seen a ghost. What happened?" I spilled everything. The meme, the hacker, Shadow Phoenix. She listened with a furrowed brow and then said, "You need someone who knows about technology. There's a guy named Jake. He's good at cybersecurity. I'll give you his number." I called Jake that evening. He agreed to meet me the next day at a co-working space in Scottsdale, a trendy place with potted cacti and the smell of fresh coffee. Jake turned out to be a skinny kid with a cactus tattoo on his arm, wearing a baseball cap and a T-shirt that read, "Keep Arizona Wild." He looked like he climbed mountains every weekend. "Tell me everything," he said, opening his laptop. I told him about the link, about the missing accounts, about Shadow Phoenix. Jake frowned. "This isn't just a hacker. This is someone who knows you. And he's playing with you." He ran some programs to dig into the IP address. But the trail led to a VPN that bounced around the world, from Singapore to London. "It's a pro," he grunted, chewing gum. I remembered another detail. A week before the attack, I saw Caitlin at a party in Tempe. It was a loud party in a bar with neon signs and half-price tequila. I was standing at the bar when I spotted her in the crowd. She was wearing a bright dress, holding a glass and laughing with someone. We didn't speak, but she looked at me and there was something strange in her eyes. Not friendliness, not anger, but something in between, as if she knew something I didn't. I brushed it off at the time, but now it's been gnawing at me. Jake told me to dig deeper. We went to her social media, bypassed the blocking with a fake account. We found her closed profile, where she posted memes about dealing with enemies and quotes like "karma is me." One post in particular struck a chord, a photo of the desert with the caption, "Sometimes you have to burn everything to start over." My heart was racing. It was like a hint. The next day, the hacker struck again. I woke up to a notification. $3,000 had been withdrawn from my bank account. I called the bank, but they said the transaction had gone through my account with confirmation. I felt like the ground was slipping away from under my feet. I ran to Jake, who was already waiting at the co-working space. "They're playing hardball," he said, "but we can play harder." He suggested setting up a trap, sending a fake message to the hacker that I was surrendering and transferring the rest of the money to a new account. Jake set up a fake bank profile to lure them in. "If they bite, we'll track their location," he explained. The wait was hell. I sat at home, petting Maverick, but there was no peace. Every sound outside the window seemed like a threat. I imagined the hacker sitting somewhere in the dark, clicking on the keyboard and laughing. But the worst part was that I didn't know why. Why me? Why now? And is it really Caitlin? Or am I chasing a ghost from the past? That night, I stood on the balcony, looking at the lights of Phoenix and thinking about everything I had lost. My career was hanging by a thread, my clients were turning away, and I couldn't even prove that it wasn't my fault. But somewhere deep inside, I knew I wouldn't give up. I will find this Shadow Phoenix, no matter what. And then he'll be sorry he messed with me. Jake explained, "The hacker is hiding behind a VPN, but if he screws up, I'll spot him." I nodded, though I didn't understand half of it. I didn't care about the technical details. I wanted to get this guy. My savings were gone, my clients were turning away, and my boss Mike was already threatening to kick me out of the startup for the offensive emails someone had sent on my behalf. I felt like I was drowning in the desert, with sand crammed down my throat. We came up with a trap: send a fake message from my hacked account, as if I was giving up, and transferring the rest of the money to a new account. Jake set up a fake bank profile to lure the hacker. "If he bites, we'll get his location," he said, chewing gum. I sat next to him, holding a cold can of Coke, and thought about Caitlin. Her social media photos from Tucson, the trendy loft, the cocktails, the sunsets, seemed fake, like she was playing a role. But why her? Why now? I dug into her past while Jake was running the code. On LinkedIn, she had written about a career in marketing, but the comments from her colleagues were cold, as if she had been tolerated there by force. On an old forum where we hung out in high school, I found her posts, bragging about hacker jokes, like how she hacked someone's page for a laugh. It smelled like Shadow Phoenix, and I felt my chest tighten. But doubts gnawed at me. What if it wasn't her? What if I'm chasing a ghost? Waiting for the trap was hell. I went home to my apartment in Tempe, where Maverick, my cat, was purring on the couch. But there was no peace. Every sound outside the window, a passing car or a dog barking, seemed like a threat. The phone beeped from an unknown number. "You think you're cunning? Look outside the window." I went to the curtains, my heart pounding, but the street was empty, only streetlights and shadows. Fear chilled me to the bone, as if someone was watching me from the darkness. I dialed Jake. "They know where I am." He answered calmly, "Hang in there, Brendan. It's part of their game. We'll get them." But his words did not calm me down. I checked the locks, slid my chair under the doorknob, and sat down with my laptop, scrolling through old chats. I remembered how Caitlin used to love to manipulate at school. She could convince anyone of anything. But hacking? That was beyond her. Or was it? The next day, Jake called. He bit. "The IP is from Tucson." I exhaled, "Caitlin." But he added, "And another signal, from Phoenix." My insides went cold. A second hacker? Or is she paired with someone else? Jake said the location from Phoenix wasn't exact, somewhere in the Tempe or Glendale area. "It could be anyone," he muttered. "But we'll nail them." We drove to Tucson, to the office where Caitlin was running things. The glass and concrete building glowed in the sun as if it were mocking me. I waited in the car, drinking a warm Coke, while Jake went to chat with her colleagues. He returned an hour later, frowning. "Caitlin is on vacation." But a colleague of hers said she often chases projects with someone from Phoenix. She didn't give me a name, but she hinted that it was an IT guy. I felt my pulse speed up. An accomplice? Someone from my city? Back in Phoenix, I met Emily at a bar near campus. She was pouring me a beer and listening to me spill everything. The hacker, Caitlin, the second signal. Brendan, are you sure it's her? She asked, wiping down the bar. Her words struck a chord. What if I'm wrong? What if I'm chasing a shadow and the hacker is laughing somewhere else? But I brushed it off. Emily, I know it's her. I just know it. That night, the hacker sent me a photo of me at a party in Tempe where I saw Caitlin. Laughing, holding a beer, unsuspecting. The caption reads, "You're close, but not there." I rushed to Jake and showed him the message. He frowned. They're playing with you, Brendan. They want you to panic. But I was already panicking. I felt like someone was standing behind me, even though it was just me and Maverick in the apartment. Jake suggested we dig deeper. We got into some old chats he had pulled from some archive. There was Shadow Phoenix talking to someone called Desert Viper. They were talking about Brendan's project, My Name, My Life. One post in particular stuck out. He thinks he's running the game. Let him run. I clenched my fists until my knuckles turned white. They laughed at me as if I were a mouse in their maze. I began to think of everyone I had crossed paths with in recent years. Caitlin was obvious, but the other hacker? In high school, she hung out with a kid named Zach, her boyfriend at the time. He hated me because I wouldn't let him cheat on his algebra exam. But Zach and hacking? It sounded ridiculous, didn't it? I told Jake to check him out. He found Zach on social media, living in Chandler, working in IT, posting pictures of motorcycles and beer. Nothing suspicious, but I couldn't help but think he was involved somehow. Meanwhile, the hacker struck again. I received a notification. My work account had published a post where I confessed to having defrauded clients. The comments exploded. Brendan, what the hell? Are you serious? I deleted the post, but the screenshots were already making the rounds in chat rooms. My boss might send a message, into the office tomorrow. This is the last chance. I felt the ground slipping away from under my feet. I sat at home, looking at the lights of Phoenix outside the window. Maverick rubbed against my leg, but I barely noticed him. Caitlin, Zach, Desert Viper were all running through my head. I didn't know who to believe, but I knew one thing. I wasn't giving up. Jake said that the trap was still working. The hacker was still gnawing on our bait. They'll make a mistake, he promised, and then we'll nail them. I nodded, though I was still afraid. Someone was watching me, knowing my every move. And I had to find them before they destroyed me completely. Jake was sitting in his office in Glendale, drinking a Mountain Dew and running through a code. His laptop was flashing lines I didn't understand, but I trusted him. They think you're panicking, he said, chewing gum, which is good. Panic makes them careless. I wasn't panicking. I was angry. My boss, Mike, had already given me an ultimatum. Fix the situation with the offensive emails to customers that the hacker had sent on my behalf, or I would be fired from the startup. Clients sent angry messages, someone filled my social media posts with lies, and I couldn't even explain properly that it wasn't me. Jake and I dug deeper into the chats he'd pulled from some dark corner of the internet. There, Shadow Phoenix was chatting with someone called Desert Viper. They were talking about Brendan's project, me. One line stuck in my mind. He runs like a mouse. Give him another maze. I clenched my fists so that my nails dug into my palms. They were playing with me, laughing while my life burned. Jake frowned. This isn't just revenge. This is personal. And that second signal from Phoenix sits closer than we thought. I started to go through everyone I'd crossed paths with. Caitlin was obvious she'd hated me since high school, when she framed me for stealing equipment and nearly ruined my future. But the other hacker? I remembered Zach, her boyfriend at the time. He was angry with me in the 11th grade because I didn't let him cheat on an algebra exam. Zach was the type to hold a grudge, but hacking? That seemed like a stretch. I asked Jake to check him out. He found Zach on social media. He lives in Chandler, works in IT, posts pictures of motorcycles and beer festivals. Nothing flashy, but the IT profile was alarming. Meanwhile, the hacker did not stop. I received a new message, a video. I'm at the party in Tempe where I saw Caitlin a week ago. I'm laughing, holding a beer, not knowing what I'm doing. The caption reads, "You're blind, Brendan." I ran to Jake and showed him. He frowned. They know we're digging. This is a warning. But he added, the good news is they opened our fake file. I can see their locations more clearly. Tucson remains unchanged. And Phoenix has narrowed to Tempe, somewhere in my neighborhood. I felt a chill go down my spine. Someone was close by. I stood on the balcony, looking at the lights of Tempe. The lights were flashing, the cars were humming, but I felt alone, as if in the desert. Maverick rubbed against my leg, but I barely noticed him. My mind was spinning. Caitlin, Zach, Desert Viper. I turned to Jake with an idea. Maybe we should set another trap? Something that will force them out of the shadows. He nodded. We could send them a letter of apology on your behalf. Like you're admitting to everything and offering to meet. If they think you've broken down, they might come forward. We composed a message. I know it's you. Let's finish this. Meet me at the park near campus tomorrow night. Jake packed a tracker in it. If the hacker opened the email, we'd see where it came from. I sat over the laptop, waiting while Maverick slept in the chair. My heart was pounding like I was running a marathon. I imagined Caitlin reading this somewhere in Tucson, or someone else, closer, watching me. My phone beeped. The tracker went off. Jake sent a message. Tucson and Tempe. They both opened. But Tempe is literally your street. I looked out the window. It was dark. Only streetlights and shadows. I imagined someone standing downstairs holding a phone and laughing. Jake said, I'm coming to you. Don't open the door to anyone. I checked the locks, slid my chair under the doorknob, and sat down with my laptop, scrolling through the chats. I remembered how Caitlin liked to manipulate in school. She could convince anyone that the sky was green. But hacking? That was beyond her. Or was it? The next day I went to work, but my mind was elsewhere. My colleagues were looking at me funny, whispering behind my back. My posts and emails had done their job. Jenna, a designer sitting across from me, asked, Brendan, are you okay? You don't seem like yourself. I waved her off. I'm fine. But I wasn't. Mike called me into his office. Brendan, I'm giving you a week. Fix this or find a new job. I nodded, even though I wanted to scream that it wasn't me. When I got home, I received a new message from the hacker. A park. Nice. But I'm not stupid. I showed it to Jake. He smiled. They're nervous. That's good. But I didn't feel happy. I felt like the circle was shrinking. Jake and I decided to change the plan. Instead of the park, we would have the meeting online. Jake created a fake chat room where he invited Shadow Phoenix and Desert Viper as if I wanted to make a deal. He added a tracker that was supposed to retrieve their devices if they entered. The wait was hell. I sat at home, flipping through old photos from high school, remembering Caitlin and Zach. Their smiles at graduation, their looks when I walked by. I thought about everyone who could be holding evil. Maybe it wasn't them. Maybe it was someone from work. But the chat with the tracker worked. Jake called. Brendan, I see them. Tucson is the same IP. And Tempe, that's your house. I looked around as if the hacker was in my closet. But the apartment was empty. Only Maverick was sleeping. I remembered my neighbor, Kyle. He lived on the floor below me, and he was always weird. He avoided talking to me. But once he asked me about my work, like, how is it at the startup? I told Jake to check him out. He did some digging and found him. Kyle worked in IT, had ties to Tucson, and his old profile on a gaming forum showed the nickname Viper. I got a chill. Could it really be him? We decided to take action. Jake said, let's go to him, but be careful. If it's him, don't scare him. I nodded, even though there was a lump in my throat. I didn't know what to expect, but I knew one thing. I was close. The hacker, whether it was Caitlin or Kyle or someone else, could already feel my breath. And I wasn't going to stop until I had them pinned to the wall. Jake and I already knew that Shadow Phoenix was sitting in Tucson. It smelled like Caitlin Wilson, my high school nemesis who had framed me for murder in Mesa. But the second signal, from my street, led to my neighbor Kyle. And I was going to check it out. Jake came to me half an hour later. We were sitting in my house, the curtains drawn, the lights dimmed, like in a spy movie. There was a can of warm Coke on the table and a laptop with the chat logs of Shadow Phoenix and Desert Viper flashing. Jake showed the data. Tucson is the same IP as before. And Tempe is your home, or rather, your Wi-Fi. I looked around as if the hacker was hiding in the closet. But the apartment was empty, only Maverick was purring. I remembered Kyle, my neighbor from the floor below. He was always strange. He avoided talking, hid his eyes, but once he asked about my work at the startup, like, how's it going? Jake dug into his profile and found it. Kyle worked in IT, had ties to Tucson, and had a nickname, Viper, on an old gaming forum. I got a chill. It was him. We decided to go to him. Jake said, be careful, Brendan. If it's him, don't scare him. We'll record everything. I nodded, even though there was a lump in my throat. I grabbed my phone, turned on the recorder, and stuck it in my pocket. We went down to the floor below. The hallway smelled like pizza and someone's cologne. I knocked on Kyle's door once, twice. Silence. Then I heard a rustle, and he opened it. Sleepy, wearing a cactus t-shirt, he looked at me like a ghost. Brendan? What the hell is this? It's midnight. I couldn't help myself. Why are you doing this, Kyle? Why Desert Viper? He blinked, then laughed, nervously, like a man who had been caught. Are you out of your mind? What's a Viper? But his eyes were darting. Jake turned on his laptop and showed him the chat logs, where Desert Viper was chatting with Shadow Phoenix about Brendan's project. The IP matched his apartment. Kyle turned pale, as if the blood had drained from his face. It's not me. It's her, he muttered, falling onto the couch. I clenched my fists. Who is she? Caitlin. He nodded, avoiding my gaze. Kyle told me everything, and I took notes. It turned out Caitlin had hired him a year ago. They had met in Tucson at an IT event where she was looking for a tech brain for her plans. Caitlin had hated me since high school for not letting her take the blame for the theft all the way to the end. She made it up as if I had ruined her reputation, even though she had almost destroyed me. Kyle agreed to help because he was jealous of my career. You've always been so successful, he grumbled, and I'm stuck in a rotten office. Together, they hacked into my accounts, siphoned off my money, and sent out lies to make me lose my job and friends. Caitlin was in charge, and Kyle was running the code. I was standing over him, and I wanted to punch him. But I restrained myself. The recording was recording everything. Jake asked, "Where's Caitlin now?" Kyle shrugged. "In Tucson, I think." She didn't say. We took his laptop with the logs and evidence and left. "At my house," Jake said. "This is enough for the cops. But we need to catch Caitlin." I nodded. I wanted to look her in the eye when she realized she had lost. The next day, we drove to Tucson. The drive through the desert was hot. The sun was beating down on the windows, and I held the phone with Kyle's recording. Jake dug up her location through the logs. She was glowing in a trendy neighborhood near downtown. We parked in front of her house, a stylish loft with big windows, just like her social media photos. I felt my pulse pounding in my temples. This was my chance to end it all. We knocked. There was silence. Then Caitlin opened the door. Wearing jeans and a t-shirt, a glass of wine in her hand, she looked like she had just come from a photo shoot. But when she saw me, her smile disappeared. "Brendan? What are you doing here?" I turned on Kyle's recording and held up the phone. Her face changed from surprise to anger. "You deserve everything," she said. "You ruined my life back in high school." I laughed out loud. "Are you serious?" "You set me up," and I kept my mouth shut. She tried to close the door, but Jake held it. "We have proof, Caitlin. Logs, chats, transactions. Cops are already aware." "It was a lie. We haven't called yet, but it has behaved." Her eyes ran like a driven beast. "You won't dare," she hissed. I smiled. "Look at me. I dare." We went back to Phoenix and handed it over to the cops. Kyle's record, logs, chat screens, everything went to work. Caitlin and Kyle were arrested 2 days later. It turned out that they not only wet me, Caitlin drove similar schemes with other enemies, and Kyle helped her for a percentage. My accounts were returned, the Dragonflies partially too. The bank agreed to compensate after the investigation. Mike, my boss, apologized, even though he grumbled that I should have been more careful. Customers slowly returned when I explained that I had been a victim of scams. I sat at home, stroking Maverick and looking at the Tempe lights outside the window. Life was returning to a rut, but the scars remained. I no longer clicked on the links, not even from Emily. I checked every post, every comment. Arizona taught me one thing. Even in the desert, someone is watching. You may think you're safe, but the shadows are always there. And if they come for you, better be ready to fight back. I still think about Caitlin sometimes. Her cold look as cops carried her away. She lost, but I felt no joy. Only relief. And yet, I knew it wasn't over. The world is full of people like her. But now I'm ready. I learned to play their game, and I won.